How's it going, guys? What of course you'll be seeing today is some Counter-Strike Global Offensive competitive gameplay on the map Inferno, which is a new one to me. Despite it being a classic for years in the Counter-Strike community, it's relatively new to me, and you'll see, I think it's in this opening kill cam, I got shot by an area that I was definitely not expecting the enemy to be, but I learned. The opening couple of rounds are rough, because, like I said, as much as I've reviewed popular spots, popular callouts, when you play the map for yourself and you're put in the heat of the moment where you're forced to make quick decisions, you could know and you could read the blueprint of the maps all you want, but if you haven't actually played the map and you don't have much experience with it, then that basically goes all out the window when your adrenaline fires up playing the game. So you have to play for quite a bit, and you see me get killed there. That being said, recently I went on a camping trip, and I was completely off the grid for 3-4 days. I didn't even have my cell phone barely on me for 3-4 days. It was just in my car the whole time. But when I came back, I found out all the news, and I kept hearing all about the ESL Cologne 2014 championships. And there was good reason for it. Wherever I went, everyone was talking about this. So what I did is, of course, I downloaded the map of like the final round match where I think it was Ninjas in Pajamas versus Fnatic. And what I did, of course, is watch and review how the game played, because I had missed it, of course. I didn't see it live, otherwise I might have watched it live, because it was like 400,000 viewers or whatever watching at one point in time. So I probably would have seen it myself too, despite the fact that I don't usually watch a lot of, competitive matches. Before I get sidetracked, I forgot to put on the prompt that doesn't allow, or that basically negates the ability to just randomly pick up a weapon you see on the ground. I put in the prompt after this match, but it didn't help me there, because I picked it up and I'm like, what the hell? I didn't want to pick that up. Next thing you know, I die. So of course I'm playing eco here because we were on a losing streak, and well, might as well save your money to build up later on down the road. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying. When I came back and I saw these ESL matches on, I downloaded that one and I downloaded another one first. But what I did once I downloaded the first ESL Fnatic one is I reviewed the whole match. I was looking for strategic grenade points they were throwing. I wanted to see how they were pillaring, how they were cornering, as of course I missed there, as you see, because I start rough. What I was looking for, of course, like I was saying, is how they handle things. And the other thing I noticed, first of all, too, was their sensitivity, of course, and I looked it up after, is significantly lower than what mine was. When I started, I think I was like 400 DPI and 8 in-game. I lowered that to 6. When I started watching these guys play more and more, like in the competitive mode, because I watched a few more matches after it, I noticed too that since they were so low, I lowered mine immediately to 4. So that's where it stands right now. 400 DPI, 4 in-game, which compared to a lot of them is still pretty high, because they average about like 2 to 3 depending on the person. I noticed Ninjas in Pajamas sort of play around the 2.5 to 3.5, so it's similar to my sensitivity at the moment. They play with it a little bit higher. This part here I was a little proud of. Maybe a bit slow on the draw, but I was able to 1 and 2 shot down the lane. And on top of that, it was just, I was playing the angles, because like I was saying, I was noticing what they were doing and what I wasn't, and it finally sort of clued in after watching them, because of course everyone playing an FPS knows that the more you're behind cover, the more you try and obscure yourself, the better your odds of survival, especially if they miss. But I didn't realize just how much more you have to put yourself behind cover in, like, against good competitive Counter-Strike players. In Battlefield 4, a lot of the time you can get away with it. At least maybe not in the competitive scene. I haven't seen anyone play competitive Battlefield 4, but when you watch in Counter-Strike here, like that was a decent shot. I was waiting for him. You notice that, like especially in the higher tier ones, where they just leave a little bit of a sliver of themselves behind cover, and they wait for the enemy to come to them, and that's basically it. So I was noticing that they use angles a lot more. And they use, of course, the muscle memory of maps they've played for a long time. They've scrimmaged, they've learned the ins and outs of the maps flawlessly, and that's a big advantage they have that no one else does. On top of that, what I noticed is the frequent more use of smoke grenades and flashbangs. Of course, that's sort of given knowledge that you should be using them anyway, but for me, a lot of the time I'd get too impatient going for kills, and a lot of the time I'd forget to deploy them, which is not only a waste of money, but it's a waste of not using appropriate strategy. Like that smoke there, what I wanted to do is throw it back so that it can basically slow them down from trying to flank as we were pushing towards B to detonate here. And I noticed that even the smokes alone, just because, and that was the other thing I noticed with competitive gameplay too, is that throwing smoke sometimes wasn't about like trying to disperse them or not, or it's basically making them make a choice. Do they want to push through smoke that you're probably going to be guarding, which is almost certain death for most of the times, or is that smoke up to basically prevent them from pushing up? And I noticed just how impatient I was a lot of the time when I was watching them, because they sometimes would completely wait until the smoke dissipated, even if that took like 30 seconds or so, however long smokes last before they made their push. And a lot of their pushes they were making with like 20 seconds left in the round, which I thought, oh man, they're really pushing their luck in terms of the timing of this. How are they going to pull it off? But I guess logistically speaking, it makes sense at the end of the day, because how are you supposed to push up into an area where not only is the enemy guarding, but you can't even see what you're going to be doing? It only works well, I suppose, if you're going to really push, if you throw smoke on a bomb site and then push right into it and hope that they don't already know exactly where you're going to be pushing. So, of course, circumstance dependent, of course, like I was saying, but that's usually how I found that it works. Especially flashbangs. Throw a flashbang in an area here. The other thing, too, what you'll see is you won't see it here, of course, as I sort of rushed to do that one. What I've noticed, too, is a lot of the pros would throw smoke using their cover. And what I mean by that is they might throw a smoke and bounce it off the wall so they don't have to reveal themselves at all around a corner. And that dramatically, of course, reduces the chance of they get killed, as I get that sort of spray despite missing earlier. I should have held down the recoil a little more on the AK, which I'm still trying to get used to. But like I was saying, going back, like in this case here, you'll see me throw the flash, and that's sort of what the pros would do, despite the fact that, yes, I don't know a lot of all the perfect grenade spots as of yet, as I'm trying to figure it out. As I got off to a slow start, I'm starting to heat up a little bit. And I've noticed that's a problem I've had recently too, is I get off to slow starts. I'm still trying to curb that aggression. An addition to the other thing that I noticed picking up watching the pros play is they'll look in position. Well, not only are they already positioning their crosshairs at the head level, which I'm absolutely getting much better at that. I've always sort of done it, but when I get in that sort of bloodlust mode where I'm going for kills too much, then I let my guard down and make that mistake. But that's easily getting fixed now. The other thing what I've noticed they'll do is they'll put their crosshair on every little angle before they even decide to push. They really take their time. Their patience level is very commendable. Like in this case here, you'll see me sort of push with it at about head level to where I think they'll be as I got smoke from behind. But as they'll push, they'll look for, like they'll check every little angle. They'll put like their crosshair at the corner here. They'll put it like further down further down where that corridor was at the angle. They'll check the other angle across from it. They'll basically clear every little conceivable spot where they can possibly get shot before they even think about pushing up. And that's one thing I definitely learned from, because I figured, yes, there'll be circumstances and moments where like you aren't completely free. Like that's a good example of what I mean by doing that. I probably could have been better if I looked up the perfect YouTube spots, but I think it got its basic demonstration point across. If you smoke them, they won't push through. Now we're going to A, and that's, I guess, all you really needed to do. Just as long as they weren't attacking you quickly from behind through the smoke, then that's enough. I go back because I heard them, and I figured if I can hold off one or two of them just enough so we can plant today, and then that guy comes out of nowhere. God damn it. And it explodes, I believe. Yep, we got it anyway. So sweet. But that was, yes, like I was saying, going back, elements like that where you basically, you learn from your experiences and you learn from watching others. They clear every single little angle before they even think about pushing up. And they pre-fire a lot more too, but I guess that comes with map knowledge and map awareness, because, I mean, playing the same maps for years with the same teammates and players, you get a general sense of where people are going to be and what they're going to do. And I'm not at that point yet in terms of that familiarity level, but it's coming. Especially like in, for example, this map in Dust 2, you almost always know where people are going to be. And I didn't even see that guy until I turned at the absolute last second and he pops me. That was just horrific luck at the wrong time. And that's unfortunately a lot of what I've been having in a lot of recent matches. This was, I think, a match right after I had ranked up from Silver 2. So this was, I think this was like my 12th or 13th win I've ever had. So it turned out pretty good in terms of winning, but of course, I hadn't played this map much in competitive. The reason why I actually had to start this match in competitive was because as part of one of the operations, I had to win 20 rounds with it, or I think it was 16 rounds playing this. So I was forced to play the map, and then I realized after watching those ESL Cologne maps that they were pretty good. This map here is pretty good, and it was picked for a reason because it's pretty well balanced. Like, you could argue maybe it's a bit counter-terrorist sided, depending on, I guess, your frame of reference. That was another example there of, as much as the peeking was working well, getting those two guys, knowing the fact that it was basically a 3-on-1, I probably should have actually retreated back and just waited for him to push forward. Or maybe I should have thrown my other flash, blinded him, and then peeked back out. But it's, again, hindsight being 20/20 considering the case. But that's basically in terms of an early rant of basically what I've learned from that video. I learned that pillaring and peeking should only be done at certain times and in certain parts of the map where you feel it isn't going to be already guarded, especially if you're a terrorist pushing into counter-terrorist area. And you have to, of course, this is basic general logic, you should always know the centers of the maps that are going to be hot spots. This one usually is, in toward the building on Inferno usually is, and of course the call out of banana, as everyone likes to call it, is certainly going to be a hot spot. It's the quickest route to the B bomb site, and if you aren't actually able to quickly get through that area, or say that the counter-terrorists just completely forget about it, which they won't, but if they're able to get through it quickly, then it's a problem. Or it's good for you, but it's a problem for them. You get gunned down by that guy. Some of those gunfights there I feel can be irritating, but like that one I just lost outright. Absolutely no qualms, no issues. But in situations like that, it does bug me when I die because it's so close. I feel like some of my bullets should have hit. And the other issue too that I do find a lot, and a lot of you have pointed out in a lot of my older videos, despite the fact that I didn't have any issues in this particular match because my internet was going fine, sometimes my internet lags a lot. And when I put up like the net_graph prompt, a lot of the time my ping will fluctuate between, like, say 50 to 200. So it'll quadruple in a matter of seconds, then it'll jump right back down, then it'll jump again. And if that happens to happen in a firefight where a lot of internet circumstances are basically the reason why you could lose or win, well, I lose. So it's a bit of an issue. That was sort of a quick peak, a very slow peak there. I got lucky that no one really had an op and wasn't guarding that area because it might have been a problem. But I feel this game is definitely a learning experience in a lot of ways. Like that one, I sped around that corner a bit too quickly. Like this is what I mean, like what I was trying to do. Although it looked better than before when I was actually, and I accidentally shot my teammate. That was a mistake. He kind of scared me. That was another circumstance there, though, that what I mean by sort of going around corners and checking every little area first. And of course, like I was saying back before I sort of interrupted myself, and I'm sorry this is random, but I'm going on the fly for this one here. I learned an awful lot in terms of grenade spots where they're supposed to be, clearing out all areas, keeping your, like I know obviously you had to keep your crosshair head level at all times, that's sort of obvious, but I would get in the bad habit of regularly sort of changing it up. Or when I'm like patrolling this guy here, I probably should have kept my gun out. It worked out. I probably should have reloaded too before I went in. I made a lot of mistakes there, but I came out with it. But at least I'm acknowledging it now. But I have to get more consistent when I'm playing of regularly, basically controlling a lot of the mistakes that I make. Because as much as I'm completely aware that I do them, a lot of the time I put myself into those circumstances even though I know I shouldn't. So that I'm still working on. But I am going to continue to watch a lot of the pros play. I'm going to watch a lot of those ESL Cologne tournament matches all over again, because I feel a lot of these maps, or a lot of those matches, are a great learning experience. And even if you've just started, that would be my advice to you, because it's helped me an awful lot already, is to watch the pros play. They've been playing these maps a long time. They know the ins and outs, and you'll see the strategies they use. But most of all, of course, just find a sensitivity that works for you. I finally found one that I found I'm pretty comfortable with. Now, if I just continually play and practice with this sensitivity and perfect it, then I feel that will be the moment when I feel I make the biggest strides as a Counter-Strike player. That's when you'll probably see me jump and make my biggest strides. Because I've lowered my sensitivity 3-4 times now, I feel like every stride I make, I take a small little step back, because now I have a new sensitivity to adjust to. Now I have to put myself in a circumstance that regularly putting myself in, that it's muscle memory, as opposed to on top of learning map knowledge and awareness, you have to get that aim back. So that's what I'm also working on, in addition to relearning everything. But yeah, watch the pros if you don't already do. But what I'll do now is, of course, continue with what I've been doing in my other Counter-Strike videos and sort of diagnose the rounds as I go, point out flaws, point out goods and bads, situations like this. You'll see, like I was saying, once you get to like these points here is when you should probably set up shop, put your crosshair where you think the enemy's going to be, get yourself in cover, and look for any points where you think that they may or may not be shooting it. Like, that guy's not even using any cover. Maybe he's peeking just at the point above my head where, like right there, maybe he had his crosshair set right there. I'm not sure. At this point here, because I was killed earlier, basically in that underground section, I'm always just a little bit weary, and you can tell that it might be a little bit of a problem, because I keep taking my eye off that downfield range to look for the underground. Then I see that half my team is basically over at B, so I'm running back through banana. I see the smoke set up here, of course. I'm looking to where I think that the enemy would be here, of course. And at first, I looked through the back section. I probably could have pre-fired, but like, pre-firing to me is one of those situations that I'm not really too sure how to handle it sometimes. Because as much as, yes, if you guess right and you shoot where an enemy is, at the very least, if you don't kill him, you'll be able to sort of push him to either relocate or duck, pin him down with suppression, so to speak. As I heard that guy creeping up, pointed at head level, and pop. I feel it can be a problematic circumstance sometimes because you're tipping off your position. Like, of course, the enemy now knows that you're going to be coming from that area, so you sort of give up the element of where you're going to be, versus putting yourself in a circumstance that you might actually get the jump on him. So far, what do we hear? Because I was on that bit of a rant. I know we got off to a bad start, and I had to eco for a while. That was the other thing I've noticed, too, that the pros did as a sort of side rant once again here. They, of course, have mastered the money system. Well, a lot of teams, at least, are really good using the money system. This was the hardest part for me to figure out when I first started playing the competitive Counter-Strike. At first I thought, try to maximize as much money as you have early on. Like, say for example, say you lose the pistol round, and say the next round you win. You might not have the perfect amount of money to buy exactly what you want, but I would always try and milk as much money as I possibly could, buying as much as I could. But I figured, after watching the pros play and going through a couple of rounds, experiencing myself, that sometimes that's not always the best strategy in terms of output. And I noticed that a lot of the teams that lose the pistol rounds in a lot of the competitive rounds will eco for the next 1 to 2 rounds, maybe even a third round, depending on the circumstance. Depending on like whether they get bomb plants, whether they get a lot of kills, whatnot. Ways to generate money, basically. But I noticed it wasn't always buy everything as much as you could, as far as you could. Especially in the second round. Usually it was just buy pistols and hope for the best. Hope for a bomb plant, hope for some kills. But you are almost readily accepting the fact that you were probably going to get your ass kicked that next round. And that was interesting. I've actually found that very interesting, almost willingly giving up a couple of rounds so that you can actually rejuvenate and get back to full speed again. And that was sort of a bizarre concept to me for a while when I was playing. But I understand now. It's sort of, and that's what Counter-Strike is, I found, especially with the money system, is it's sort of an ebb and flow. It's If you start rough, it's not a big deal. You might lose the opening 3 to 4 rounds, but once you stock up on gear, ideally if you win the next 2 rounds up because you stocked up on your gear and the enemy hasn't been gathering so much money that he can now push up a good stand, but you're putting yourself in a situation that now you can be on the push. You can be that team kicking their ass. You just need a good round or two after you're actually established enough money to push forward. And that was something that took a while for me to really get in my head. And that was a mistake there, as I was basically going too fast. I was checking my corners, as you could see. The problem, of course, is like I was saying, I was going too fast and I wasn't thoroughly checking them before I pushed. It worked out, though. I managed to get at least 2. I'm pretty sure I get more. I can't remember, do I? Yeah, I think we win this round and I was able to get the one guy. I can't remember. Oh no, we lost. Oh. Oh no, we won. I forgot. The AK sort of threw me off. Sorry about that. But that is one thing, like I was saying, I was going back. Mastering the economics of Counter-Strike is basically, I think, a gigantic step as well. Because even if you're new, even if you're in the lower tier ranks, if you can get used to the ecosystem yourself, on top of, especially if you have a good team with you, because I don't, but if you had a good team with you, a lot of the time, well, it works out quite well because you can balance it between the two. A recent video I posted a while ago had where it was basically a whole load of our good teammates were basically giving each other advice on what exactly when to buy, what to buy, and not what to waste your money on, and that was great benefit in helping me out on top of watching the pros. This was a risky strategy there, as you see me run through the smoke. Probably shouldn't have done that. It was way too aggressive. I probably should have slowed down when I was checking, peeked that corner, but I was... Sometimes, like I said, it gets in my head, and that was a mistake. I managed to get the 2 kills, but I probably should have died. I'm still, and that is my biggest flaw as a player right now, is just the impatience level. I don't sometimes realize how much time I actually have on the clock to manage, to manipulate, to work with, as opposed to... Like in a case like that, I hear the bomb planted. I still have time to clear the area to get to the bomb, especially if I bought a defuse kit as a counter-terrorist, but sometimes I rush. I get in circumstances that there's no reason for me to push that fast. And like in a situation like that, I probably should have died because I just relentlessly, with reckless abandon, went around that corner. Probably should have died. Didn't. It worked out. But those are the 2 biggest things for me, is mastering the ecosystem and slowing down. Being patient. Realizing there's much more time on the clock than you actually think you have. And that's the key. Just checking all your angles. Peeking around corners before you actually pursue them. Keeping your crosshair at head level before you turn the corner and after you turn the corner. And putting it to an area where you think the player is going to be. I know it's general logic and common sense, and you've seen me do it many different times despite me being young. Well, new to Counter-Strike, I mean. But in this case here, like I still make the mistake sometimes of rushing too much. Like in this case here, I sort of get swarmed. I was not expecting them to run through the smoke. And I made a mistake there, of course, I should have reloaded when I was behind the car, because the guy didn't even see I was behind the car yet. But it's okay, we got the win in this particular case. This next round here, playing with counter-terrorists. A lot of the time when I have money like I did here, like what's that, $8,000 sometimes I'm torn. I'm not sure whether to buy the M4A1 or I'm not sure whether to buy the AWP. But because I wasn't too familiar with this, I wasn't sure of sight lines and areas. I figure if I was going to be defending B here, an AWP would be really good for these sight lines. But because I'm tossing smoke to slow them down a bit, I figured that if another guy had an AWP and he was probably going to be set in position to shoot me first, and on top of that, I wasn't sure if they were going to be, like say I had to rotate from B to A, I didn't want to be stuck with an AWP if it was like a 3-on-2, as my teammate runs directly into that flashbang. I didn't want that, so I ultimately, of course, decided to go with the M4A1, as you saw. Which is, of course, sorry for the yawn, exactly what happened here. We basically had to rotate. We had to rotate all the way back to A, and having the M, like, and again, see how that's a mistake here. I have much more time than I think I do. Look, how much time is that? Just over a minute.
Guys, go away.
Like, one thing I do notice I'm doing pretty good though is I'm like that there was a hard check. That there, like, he was, one of us probably should have went high and the other should have went low, because that guy had a really good position on us. I wasn't sure if I had a flashbang or not in that section, but I probably should have taken my time, thrown a flash, and then jumped down. But of course, it's not what happened. Hindsight 2020. I decided to go with the op here. I'm pretty sure I decided to go to B, because it makes the most sense in my mind to be able to guard that long sight line with the op. So that's what I think I decided to go with in this particular case. But I can't remember what happens here. Oh, I got him. The other thing too is the op. I can't believe I lived. One thing I've noticed too as well is with the op, as you'll see this guy just hiding underneath that. I guess hiding behind the barrels. I'm not sure if you could penetrate the barrels with it or not. I didn't bother trying. I probably should have tried. I just tried shooting his leg. It didn't work, but, you know. I've noticed too, like I was saying, I forget what I was saying something about the op. I find the ops very unforgiving a lot of the times if when you have to pick your spots. Because I've noticed if you miss the first shot or two, or actually no, what I was gonna say. Okay, I'll finish that. Sorry, I'll finish that one first. You have to sort of, if you miss the shot, you have to relocate. You have to drop back and change the angle, because staying in that same area a lot of the time, especially if he's going to push you, you're in serious trouble. But on top of that, because I changed up my sensitivity, as I've alluded to in several different videos now, the op is the one with flick shots and quick shots that I've noticed I've had the most trouble with, because you'll see me get swarmed here as I missed the 2 shots I probably should have hit, and that guy just jumps down and swarms me as he knew where I was, and I accidentally fed the other team an op. But I probably should have stayed back. I pushed up too far. I probably should have jumped across and then guarded the main section. But that wasn't a good round at all for any of us. We all basically got smoked, or we all got not smoked. We all got killed, and that was the end of it. But as you could tell, the match is going pretty well for us. What is that? I can't read it on the small screen. It's 14-5. I'm pretty sure obviously we're only about 2 rounds away from winning it. We don't win them all from here. That one there was just terrible circumstance. It was just a poorly angled flash and a poorly timed flash, and I'm pretty sure that guy killed me with possibly my own op, so obviously that went as poorly as it probably could have gone. This one here, again, I decided to go with the FAMAS. It's a pretty decent sort of half between eco, half between spending compromise. Obviously anyone's going to prefer the M4A1 probably over it. But it's pretty decent. It fires, a 3-round burst. As long as you're able to aim for head level, then you can still put yourself in decent position for a cheap weapon. This here was not a good idea. I did get the victory on it. And of course, hindsight 2020, I do notice I get too aggressive. This was probably the better idea of how I should have played it. Take my time. Throw the flash, quick check, now drop back. And guard from this angle or from another angle that he's not expecting. Like in this case, he didn't throw a flash, so I get the 2 kills. Pretty decent amount of money for it. Now I can just guard that bomb. Now pick up the AK, drop back, and just wait for him to turn the corner. The odds are he's probably not going to be coming from over where that section, like he ended up going right there and walking into my bullets. But the odds were he probably wasn't going to be coming from that section further back and flanking around from where A to B was. So it's not too bad. That works out for that section. I can't remember if we win or lose this round, but because I noticed that the commentary's up for another 2-3 minutes, we probably lose it. But we'll see. That's another tip I always use, of course, for myself. I didn't do it at first, but it makes perfect sense to. If you have a chance to, especially if it's an AK, if you have a chance to grab an op or an AK and your teammates want it, you can always use it, or you can always give it to your teammates, but you yourself should probably use it. Because the AK took me the longest to get used to, just because I noticed the one-shot headshot or the 2 to 3 round bursts while holding like down on your mouse as you shoot it make you absolutely lethal if you can get used to the spray patterns. But it is a tougher weapon to get used to. I do notice that for me at least, this was probably the toughest weapon I had to try and get used to start. But I've noticed the one-shot headshot pops that I'm really starting to get used to are really helping me out. And you'll see, I'm going too fast. That's my biggest issue is when the bomb gets planted, I sort of panic and I go way too fast. We'll see. Oh, and see, dumb flash. I should have waited to hear the pop before I pushed in. But I will work on that. That's one thing I've noticed is a big issue for me is I basically go significantly too fast when the bomb gets planted. I almost panic. But I imagine, experience, get used to the fact that you have more timing. Slow down, be patient, especially if you're a counter-terrorist because you'll have the bomb defusing kit. You can take your time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you listened to it all, let me know. I know 30-minute commentaries are too much for most people, especially for my rants. But I do appreciate those that watch most of the video or even all of it. I do truly appreciate it. So here's the last round. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you later.
You got to be kidding me right